Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of the Drunken Hubby. Take a moment to hit that subscribe button. Go ahead and click the bell icon so you can select notifications and you get notified whenever I make a new video. And while you're at it, go ahead and smash that like button. Alright, so we're heading back to that whiskey again. So you already know that I don't really like it straight. So let's just get to the point. I'm gonna mix it with some soda today. So, earlier in the week, had a viewer give some suggestions about topics to discuss. Shout out to you, Tamika Walker, for giving some ideas of what you'd like to see me discuss. Now, there's a lot of censorship going on with some of those topics, so I probably won't touch on some of those, but the one I will touch on, the one I will discuss, is about the generation, I guess it's X, Y, or Z. I've never paid much attention to that stuff. All I know is that the younger generations nowadays need a lot of help because there's a lot of stuff that has been screwed up for us, this generation of parents. Personally, one of the biggest problems that we're having with the younger generations nowadays is lack of proper discipline and punishment. You see so many videos out here now, children are acting so entitled, they can say whatever they want and do whatever they want. There's no sense of responsibility, no sense of respect. And part of the reason that happens is if you don't punish a child in the right way, when it's warranted, they're gonna grow up with that kind of attitude because you didn't put the fear of God into them when you were supposed to. And I'm speaking this generally, I'm not specifically singling anybody out. Part of raising a respectable child into a respectable adult, it's going to be punishment. Now granted, not every child is the same, not every single punishment is going to work for every single child, and I want to make it clear, I do not condone abuse. However, I am one parent that does condone spanking. No, it is not abuse to spank a child in certain situations where that spanking is definitely warranted. For example, recently I seen a video. It's a young child, probably about 7 or 8. He is knocking over a television and smacking it with a hammer. And instead of snatching the hammer from him and punishing him and correcting the behavior, the parents are just filming him and asking him, "Why are you doing that? What is wrong with you? What are you thinking? Why are you doing that? Stop it, stop it." He's not paying them no mind. Do you know why? Because it's obvious they have not punished him. Grounding isn't going to do anything for that kind of behavior. If you're not punishing a child in the first place, when that behavior first starts to materialize, well, they're going to think, well, nothing happened to me, so this behavior must be okay. It's one thing for you to talk and talk and talk and talk until you're blue in the face. If that child is not going to listen to you, continuing to talk to them isn't going to do anything. You need to punish them to correct the behavior. I'm sorry, but some children, timeouts will not work. Taking their things will not work. Certain behavior like that, smacking television on purpose with a hammer just because, that child needs a spanking. And it's not something that you do out of anger. It's not something you're doing to hurt the child. It is Certain punishments need to be drastic enough to get their attention. It needs to be unpleasant. That's why it's a punishment. It's supposed to be unpleasant. It needs to be unpleasant enough to correct that behavior so that they'll think, oh, well, I didn't like that, so maybe I shouldn't do this. So if grounding isn't working and they're still doing it, you're taking away their stuff and they're still doing it, it's time for a spanking. And standing them in the corner and giving them timeout is not working. If they're refusing to even sit in timeout and do what they're told to do, you need to spank. That's just my opinion of it. But it's more to it than that too. Parents need to have sit downs with their children and allow their children to ask questions. Be honest and frank with your children up to a point of what you're not going to stunt their growth, obviously, but don't ever lie to your child. If they ask a question you feel they're too young to know or understand, tell them that's a conversation we'll have to save for a later time. See, it's that simple. If they ask why, personally, I would say, well, that's something you'll understand when you're a little bit older. That's just me. But parents need to hold themselves accountable, especially in front of their children. Fathers and mothers, you need to learn how to get along for the sake of your children. If there's something you can't agree on, then you need to learn to disagree. But one thing that'll definitely cause behavioral issues in the younger generations is the back and forth and the disrespect of that child's parents to that child. Because what's going to happen is, if that child sees you disrespecting that other parent every day, day in and day out, what do you think you're teaching them? They're not going to have any respect for that parent. And then you're making things all the more difficult for that parent. I mean, it's okay for you and whoever it is, the other parent of that child, to not get along. But don't not get along in front of them. Be civil, be cordial, be respectful of that person when you're around that child. Even in behind closed doors and it's just you and your child, don't let them hear you bad-mouthing your ex. If that's their father, if that's their mother, whatever. Don't do that. That's damaging them. That causes behavioral issues too. And then one of the other things parents need to not do is the whole, do as I say, not as I do. No, children copy what they see you do and what they hear you say. The big problem with that is do as I say, not as I do. That teaches them early on to be hypocrites. We've already got enough hypocrites in Congress and in our government right now, world over, matter of fact. Too many hypocrites. I know this isn't on subject, but it's something that made me mad. How many times did our congressmen and women decide not to give the people that need it benefits package, stimulus checks, whatever you want to call it? The American people are the ones calling out for this. The majority. Congress kept saying no. Kept saying no. Kept saying no. Arguing over it. But now they've voted themselves a pay raise. I'm sorry, that ain't right. You said there wasn't enough money to give the people the stimulus checks they need in order to survive during these lockdowns that's being forced upon them. Businesses that are shutting down so people don't have their jobs, which means they don't have an income. It's because of this whole COVID stuff. I'm going to get on that another day. Anyway. You're hypocrites, Congress. Plain and simple. Sorry, there was a hair in there. I don't know how I got there. Anyway. Hypocrisy is one of the things that's definitely deteriorating their our younger generations now. They have no sense of responsibility for what they say or do. Too many of them don't want to own up to their own stuff. They want to pass the buck, blame someone else. It's not my fault, it's so-and-so's fault, blah, blah, blah. Where do you think they got it from, man? I think as a community, we need to own up to our mistakes and show our children what it's like to actually be a grown-up. And I'm sorry I'm going to have to use this term, but we need to stop letting people think it's okay to be snowflakes and be offended by every single little thing. I'm sorry, but you know what? There's going to be stuff out there that's going to offend you. But just because something offends you doesn't mean you have the right to go and cancel it. Because a lot of the times you're canceling someone else's rights because you got offended. Well, you're going to get to the point you keep canceling other people's rights, you're going to cancel your own damn rights because someone else is going to get offended by those. We have the freedom of speech. I'm talking to you, the younger generation. We have freedom of speech. Not everyone's going to say something pleasant. If you don't like what someone said, okay, don't watch them, don't listen to them, don't tune in, whatever. But don't take it upon yourself to go and cancel someone. Take away someone's livelihood because you don't like what someone said or did. Now, it's different if someone is violating rights. Stuff like that is different. All rights should be upheld equally, without excuse. And that's something even the younger generations, I think, kind of understand. And they're kind of being more awakened to, unlike us older generations. I'm getting off point again. Anyway, I don't pay much attention to the Generation X, Y, Z, or any of that stuff. All I know is us older folk have a responsibility to teach the younger folk right from wrong. It is our responsibility to teach them how not to hate, how not to lie, how to take responsibility for our actions. And sometimes that teaching process is going to be unpleasant. Sometimes it's going to involve punishments that might straight up be unpleasant. Sometimes it might have to involve a spanking or two. I don't condone spanking for every single reason. I don't believe in spanking a child just because. And I definitely don't believe in spanking or punishing a child in any way just because you're angry or out of anger. Never punish a child out of anger. If you have to, parents, go and find just a way to calm down. Tell your child before you go calm down, look, I'm going to go calm down. When I get back, we're going to have a talk and we're going to have a punishment. Sometimes, that was effective for me at least, the child knew a punishment was coming and they didn't know when or what it was going to be. If they didn't know when or what it was going to be, sometimes that was actually rather effective to kind of help drive home, you know, what it is. Now, moving on to the next topic. Staying in a workplace. At any workplace, you need to figure out if it's the kind of work you can deal with doing long term, you got to figure out if there's any kind of growth in that place, and you got to figure out what your personal goals are. So if you're there and you're just to collect a paycheck, I mean, does it really matter if you really grow then, if you're just there for a check? Because for actual growth inside any job means you kind of have to sort of care about the company itself. It kind of just goes hand in hand. It's just the way it is. Now, you find yourself in a situation, you care about the company somewhat, you feel like there's something there you want to do, you want to grow into, but it's just stale, it's stagnant, and there's no growth. Okay. Try to hang in there as long as you can while looking for other options, because other companies are more, they hire more quickly if you already hired, if you're already still working. Excuse me. It's a lot harder to get a job when you don't actually have a job, because they're thinking, well, why aren't you currently working right now? What's the problem? Now, that's just coming, from their point of view. But have a sit down with whoever's over you. Tell them what your goals are, right? Ask them how you can accomplish that, what it is in their eyes you need to do to get from point A to point B. Don't worry about point C or anything after that. You worry about point A to point B first, one step at a time. You focus on that and conquer that first. Now, if it comes to pass that said employer or shift leader, whoever is directly over you, either doesn't want to or can't help you with your progress, okay, go to the next person in line over them, and the next person and the next person. If you've climbed that ladder and have gotten no answers, you've got no response, it's just stale and it's dead, then you have to kind of evaluate, well, is this the place that I really want to work for a long time and not make any progress? If your answer is no, don't quit. Not yet. First, line up some interviews. And figure out, other options outside of that company that might offer you more of what you're looking for. And then what you do, once you've got some good interviews and you've got some offers to come and work at these A, B, and C job, that's when you go to your boss and say, hey, look, this is what it's going to be. You're going to have to help me move up, or I'm shipping out. They're either going to help you move up, or they're going to say, okay, bye. You've already got A, B, and C lined up, so you're good, right? So it won't matter at that point. That's how you do it. And don't tell nobody what your plans are. Make your moves in the dark, kind of thing. Nobody needs to know what you're planning. Nobody needs to know the moves you're making. But yeah, as far as how long, that I can't really answer. I don't have enough experience personally to answer that question. I think within a year, 2 years, and you've been unable to make any progression, and you're just dead still in the water, then yeah, I would probably try and start looking for something else that'll better suit my needs. But don't be hasty. Don't make any rash decisions. Move slow. Take your time and think on it. Alright, so the other topic idea was global warming. Now, give everybody a heads up with this one, because now we're entering conspiracy theory territory, okay? And I'm just going to give a disclaimer right now. These are just opinions. I'm not going to claim them as facts, okay? So YouTube, if you're watching, please don't demonetize me. These are just my opinions. Don't take them for fact. Go and do your own research on this, because other people might think of my opinions as fake news and conspiracy theory, blah blah whatever. But it's just my opinion, okay? Alright. That being said, I feel like global warming, this whole agenda behind it, is a piece of a global agenda. When I say global, I'm talking about a global government, the shadow government that's doing the whole world, not just individual countries, okay? More on that another time. Let me know in the comments if y'all want to see more conspiracy theory stuff. Conspiracy theory stuff. Say that 3 times fast. Anyway. So, I personally think that there is no global warming. I believe that it's all propaganda to force people to pay carbon tax, to purposely lower people's footprint so as to minimize how much property a person can have, to dictate to a person what kind of vehicle they can drive, to dictate to a person what kind of food they can buy at the grocery store and eat, and so on. Here's an example, okay? Going on with the cars. So they're getting rid of the more powerful sports cars, the V8s and the V6 and the V10s and all that stuff. They're going to go V6 and then smaller for sports cars, right? And now they're trying to switch to all electric now too and get rid of that altogether. So imagine you have your brand new electric sports car, right? You don't know entirely what's in it. Now, let's say something's going on, there's protests going on, or whatever happens. The city government decides it wants to go on a lockdown. We're going through that a lot right now, aren't we? So just follow me, right? So they decide to go on lockdown. Everybody's got these new electric cars. There's no more regular gas cars, right? They hit a button, and all of a sudden nobody's cars will turn on. Dead in the water, can't go nowhere without your government's permission. Yeah, I really do. Think about it. They've already started putting kill switches in cars decades ago for stolen cars and stuff like that. Cops are chasing the car. The certain cars, they had the kill switches to hit the button. The car stops dead in its tracks. So they're going to do that on a massive scale. And then they're trying to get away with illegalizing meat, so to speak. I know all of you vegans out there, I know y'all are probably celebrating that one. That's okay. But for some of us who follow certain religions, like for me, okay, I'm what's called a Nazarene. I'm not going to get into that now, but it's a fine line between Judaism and Christianity. We celebrate Passover. The commandment for Passover is to have lamb as part of the dinner. Well, we can't observe that if meat's illegal, though, can we? So the government's taking it upon itself, with all the snowflakes and all these other people that either don't care or don't believe, whatever, forcing their beliefs on someone else. So then we got illegalized meat. People have to go and eat meat illegally just so they can observe the statutes that their God gave them. Yeah, I would be one of them. I'm sorry. But I'm putting my God before any man law. Period. You don't like it? Oh well. It's just what it is. Anyway. I'm going off on I'm way off topic. Anyway, global warming, I think, it's just a government ploy to further push the so-called Agenda 21. They want to have more power over the people as on a global scale, while at the same time reducing the Earth's population by 90%. They're hiding it in plain sight, but now it's getting harder and harder to find the information because all of the internet that was supposed to be a free exchange of information has now completely been censored almost everywhere you go now. So you can't trust Google to find it now. So if you got any alternative search engines, feel free to look up Agenda 21. But there I go again, I'm going off topic. These are just my opinions. Now, here's one that's probably going to get me in hot water. The Delta variant. There are a lot of different theories and a lot of different propaganda and news releases contradict each other regarding this COVID Delta variant. But I have heard with my own ears certain news broadcasts, which you won't be able to find unless you really know where to look for it. On the one hand, the one I overheard said it was mostly only the vaccinated that were getting the COVID variant. There was another one claimed the CDC admitted that only 6% of the American COVID deaths claimed by hospitals are actually COVID deaths, and that the rest of them, the 94%, were from terminal illnesses, cardiac arrests, influenza, and fatal accidents. My opinion is that they're just saying there's this bigger, scarier version of this thing because they still want to scare people into giving up their personal freedoms and rights to live in fear and do everything that the government says. But I remind everyone that never in history of mankind has there been a government that is absolutely truthful with its constituents. Never in history of mankind has there ever been a government that does not misuse and abuse its citizens. Never in history has there been a government that does not lie to its people. Here's one example of the United States history. The Tuskegee experiment, where they purposely, willfully, and sneakily allowed men, black men specifically, to be infected with syphilis so that they can watch what happens as the disease progressed. There was a cure available, but they never cured them. This was classified only until recently. This just is one example. So if they did that then with that, who's to say they're not doing it now with the COVID? Anyway, everybody, I've gone on long enough. I've gone on way off topic. Let me know in the comments what you'd like to see in here. Hit that like button. Go ahead and subscribe. Share the videos. Help me get out there. Let other people see.